Hi, my name is Kai, I'm sick and I make videos about my life, and welcome to the Heart series. Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I am Kai and I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS. I have a whole story or a whole video on like kind of my story, what's wrong with me, all that good stuff, and that kind of talks about everything. This is going to be my heart series, so this is going to be focusing entirely on things that are wrong with my heart and just kind of just the heart issues of my life. I have a few different heart conditions. So the first one's going to be POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and that is less of a heart condition and more of an issue with my veins. So my veins don't squeeze the blood up to my head, so I pass out when I stand up a lot. And then I have SVT, supraventricular tachycardia syndrome, and that's what this video is going to be about. So I will talk a little bit more about that later on. And then inappropriate sinus tachycardia syndrome, which is pretty much saying you have a high heart rate, we don't know why. This video is going to be all about my SVT episode I had back in 2021, and I already have a video on it on my channel, but it's a bit of a messy video, so I figured I would make a new video kind of talking about it, really explaining what happened to kick off the heart series here. So I want to go back before that episode to kind of high school. Back in gym class, I'd always have a high heart rate whenever we were checking our pulse, and teachers always told me it was just I was unfit, I needed to exercise more, and nobody really questioned it. I was always had bad circulation, I always had a fast heart rate. It was never a big deal, so nobody ever worried about it. Flash to December of 2020, and this was when I was having a lot of issues. At this point, I've been diagnosed with EDS. I kind of assumed I must have had POTS from fainting episodes I'd been having for a few years and all that. But in December, everything got just a lot worse. I was passing out a lot. I was super lightheaded, super dizzy, couldn't breathe very well. So I went to the ER at one point, and they, did an EKG, did a few things, and the ER doctor just looked at me and went, "You're just stressed, it's anxiety, go home, calm down, you're fine. You have a high heart rate from anxiety." And I was like, okay, I have anxiety, and this is it's not the same thing, I know that, but fine, whatever. So February 9th, 2021, now we're still in the midst of COVID, so I had moved to Savannah to come back to school, but I didn't really have all that many friends in the city yet, so I was kind of alone. I had my roommate and one other friend. I was going to a GI appointment because I had issues with my GI tract, and I just really needed to get to this appointment. It was super important. So I'm waking up and I go to braid my hair. I have short hair, but it's still braidable if I do double French braids, so that's what I was doing. And I've always struggled to braid my hair because I'm keeping my hands above my head for so long, and it always just kind of hurts my arms, and my heart starts going pretty fast. But I was like, oh fine, my heart going fast is just anxiety. Okay, that means I can braid my hair then. So a little bit petty, a little bit passive aggressive. And I braided my hair. Typically I'll take breaks going through it and rest my arms so I'm not keeping them above my head for so long. Didn't do that, so finished braiding my hair. My heart rate was going kind of fast. Didn't think too much of it. Turned around, went to walk out of the bathroom, and I just fell. I had no awareness that I was falling until I hit the floor, so I just kind of face planted into the ground. Didn't catch myself, anything. Scared my roommate's cat, scared me. That's when I was like, oh, my heart is going really fast. I can see it in my chest, moving. So I got up, I went to my bed, I grabbed my little oximeter, and my pulse was reading 215. I was like, oh, that's new. All right, I'm gonna lie down for a few minutes, because with POTS, typically if I lie down, my heart rate goes back down. So I lie down, but I had to sit back up within a few minutes so I could go to my GI appointment. Sat back up, checked my pulse again, it was 240 at this point. I called my parents and I got in my car to go to my GI appointment, and I'd kind of called them going hey, if my heart rate's almost 250, if I die while I'm driving, I just want somebody to know what happened and where I am. And they kind of laughed, and I drove to my appointment and made it to my GI got in, you know, sat down, made it to the room. The nurse came in to check my vitals, and she saw like my pulse is like almost 250. She was like, is that normal? I was like, maybe? I don't know. I have heart issues, but that's new. She left, got the doctor. They came in. My doctor was like, okay, we will schedule your gastric emptying study. We'll call you. We'll figure it out. Go to the ER right now. We're going to call an ambulance. I was like, no, you don't have to call an ambulance. I could drive. It's just fine. It's just up the street. So I get to my car. I try and call my roommate. They were asleep. Couldn't reach them. Called my parents again. Told them I was going to the ER. Hung up with them and went to call my other friend in the city. And he picked up, and I was like, this is what's happening, just so you know, like, so somebody near me knows what's happening. And he doesn't have a car, but he was like, do you want me to grab an Uber and I can meet you there? I was like, no, don't worry about it. I'm almost there. It's not a huge worry. It's still COVID. Like, they're not gonna let you in. Don't worry about it. I'll keep you updated. If I need you, I'll tell you. He was like, okay, just let me know. I was like, okay. So I get to the ER, and I kind of come into the room, or I go into the waiting room, and, you know, go through the security, go to line up at the front desk, and lady comes in behind me, and she said she had fallen, she broke her hip, she needed a wheelchair, it hurt too bad to walk on. So nurse or hospital staff comes out with a wheelchair for her to sit down. They break one of the brakes, and she kind of sits down, she goes to try and they walk away. Clearly has never really used a wheelchair before, so I kind of turned around and I was like she was really struggling, so I kind of like took the brake off, and I was like, let me help you, and I was like pushing her up. She walked in behind me, mind you, and I just kind of was like pushed her up ahead. I pushed her up to the front desk and kind of left her hair and stepped back, but the front desk dude thought I was with her, and I wasn't. I was just helping. Also, this front desk dude was an asshole, and every time I've been to the ER while he's there, asshole to everybody. But he was kind of like, fine, whatever, here's your thing, go sit down. I kind of come up and I'm like, hi, I have a 250 heart rate. He was like, yeah, sure. Here's your ticket, go sit down. And I was sitting, they called me back, and then it's like, you sit, so like my ER, you go in, there's like the front desk, you're in the waiting room, you go into the doors, and when you go into the doors, there's a hallway. You go and you sit in the chairs, waiting to go into the EKG. So I was there, they called me back for the EKG. Oh, I forgot one of the most important parts. When I was at my house, before I left for my GI appointment, I didn't know what to do, so I put Vicks, like VapoRub, on my chest, thinking it would help. Nothing else calms the anxiety, right? Because this is anxiety. So I get into the EKG, and the dude doing the EKG, he's the nicest dude. He looks like Santa Claus. I love him. Met him several times now. Absolutely adore him. And he like goes to try and stick all the little stickers of the EKG like onto my chest, but I had put VapoRub on my chest, so it wasn't sticking, and he's trying to like viciously tape it down. And he looks at me and he goes, you have a 250 heart rate, and you thought VapoRub would help? I was like, yes, I did think it would help. I was wrong, clearly. That's why I'm here. Oh, it was funny. He was making fun of me for it, like, the rest of the time I was there. But eventually we get a reading, and that was kind of like this moment of, like, I've been in the ER before. I've been in, like, things before, but I've never seen people hop and, like, go in the ER like they have here. Like, he immediately went behind the curtain, got somebody. They brought the wheelchair out. I was like, oh, so this is great. Got me in it. They were like going we went to like the emergency room, not like just a casual room, like the big room. So we're sat there, get me on the bed. They're like immediately asking me questions. There's like 10 people in the room. It's like, okay, taking my clothes off, putting a robe on, putting stickers on, like defibrillators on, like this whole thing. Like everybody was like freaked out, and I was like, it was the moment they brought the wheelchair out that I was like, oh, this is bad, isn't it? But like kind of like at this point I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I didn't think that this was a bad problem, and now we're here and people are running and I don't know what's happening. And they were like, have you had any caffeine, stimulants, drugs? I'm like, no, nothing. I've not had any caffeine today. I've not had, I was just braiding my hair. And then like, I didn't know, like I was so scared and like not really scared, but like anxious and flustered, and I didn't know what was happening. And it was just like questions and questions. I was like, I don't know. So like, I guess like big ER doctor person, someone high up comes in and they're like, okay, we're gonna do like vagal maneuvers. So we're kind of sat there and they're doing like hold your breath, strain, like clench your muscles, like all these things that are supposed to trigger your body into kind of resetting and bringing your heart rate down. None of them were working, so he was like, okay, since none of these have worked, we are going to do a dose of adenosine. It's going to be in your system for 10 seconds. It's going to hurt. But it'll only be 10 seconds. So they like, you know, have the IV in already. So they go and nurse pushes the adenosine and then flushes with water immediately after. Adenosine is a drug that, and I found this out later, I didn't know this at the time, stops your heart for 10 seconds. So whenever it's in your system, your heart is stopped for 10 seconds. And what I find really interesting about this is the fact that for 10 seconds, your body is essentially dead. It's not going to, it's going to come back. It is only 10 seconds. But in that time, your body is essentially dead. And it was really interesting. I'm sat there kind of like I distinctly remember like it did hurt, but it all faded. Like it felt like I left it in a sense, like it hurt, but it wasn't there. It was a really interesting experience. And interesting, not in a good way. I kind of like came back and they're like, didn't work, your heart rate's still like 250. So like, we're gonna give you another one, double the dosage. Great. Push it again, and then like push the adenosine, flush with saline, and then same thing, like, but worse this time. Like I had faded, like I felt like I was leaving my body. Like it was great. And then I kind of came back and a nurse was like holding me, like stroking my hair. And I kind of had a moment of realizing like how alone I was. Like a nurse is holding me, and I don't have anybody else here with me. After the second dose, my heart rate went down to like, it was at like 140, 130, and everybody was kind of cheering and super happy. So after that happened, everybody kind of cleared out, crisis averted. They gave me some like anti-anxiety. We come back to this, some anti-anxiety stuff just to help bring it down a little bit further. Because I was pretty stressed at that point, so I was a little bit loopy. There are definitely a few clips, quite a few clips of me out of it entirely. Everything's so spicy. I feel a little bit high. Like my limbs feel all floppy. Floppy. Yeah. IVs are all hooked up. Wrap that in. I like texted my parents, I texted my roommate, I texted my friend. I was like, yay, my heart rate's back down, all good. Not sure what's happening from here, but I'm all good. They've given me some drugs. You know, we'll figure it out as we go. And eventually like they kind of came back and they're like, okay, we'll get you out of here and like on your way. So I got all my stuff and I drove home that night. They told me to call my cardiologist and figure out what was going on. Or I think like my appointment was at like 1:30, it was early in the afternoon, and I wasn't getting home till like late evening. But all in all, it was like one day, less than 12 hours, but it's something that still gives me a lot of like issues and like trauma over, because I mean, it was only 20 seconds and I wasn't technically dead, but I died, you know, for like 20 seconds. That's pretty crazy. And I know anybody else who's had an experience with adenosine can confirm that it is one of the worst experiences you will ever have. Like, it is awful. I would not ever wish that on anybody else. It was a miserable, miserable experience. The whole situation was, I mean, having a heart rate that high is terrifying. And they kind of told me that, like, we don't know what caused it. It wasn't drugs, it wasn't caffeine, like, there was no trigger, which means it's probably something wrong with your heart. You could have another episode at any time. And they promptly yelled at me to never drive if I was having an episode, to call an ambulance immediately. And I promptly, for weeks after that, actually, I would get phone calls from the nurses at the hospital instructing me to never drive like that again and to call an ambulance. So I was thoroughly yelled at for driving myself. It has been ingrained. I will not ever do that. So pretty much that was my experience with SVT and adenosine. I only ever had the one seriously bad episode with, like, needing to be treated with adenosine. I've not had any other adenosine experience. But man, was it scary and traumatizing, and I still struggle with, like, braiding my hair today because, like, I'm just like, what if something happens again? That was my SVT experience, my experience with adenosine. I hope you enjoyed, because I know I didn't. If you would like to hear more about my heart story, subscribe and wait for later. Give this video a like. Let me know if you've had any experience with SVT yourself. The next video will cover, like, treatment and my ablation, so be on the lookout for that. And as always, much love, goodbye.